In this video, I'm going to go over the common traps and pitfalls that first-time homeowners fall into and how you can avoid them. And I really want to be transparent with you because if you do not at least take into consideration some of these things I'm telling you and you just go at it and you just wing it, you may or may not, I don't know, how do I say this? You may not come out of it in a good position. Now, number one, when you buy real estate, it's all about how much you bought it for in the beginning. As much as people are going to tell you, you make the money when you buy it. Yes, when you buy a home that's completely renovated, it looks nice and beautiful, you're going to be paying a premium in the marketplace. That's how it goes. If you can buy a little bit of an ugly home in a nicer community, you're going to be able to lock in appreciation in that home immediately. And honestly, by fixing two specific areas, the kitchen and the bathroom. If you fix the kitchen, the bathroom, and you update the home, and granted, if the roof isn't falling apart and the floor isn't all messed up, you can sizably make a really good return when you reappraise the property because you bought that home in a great area that already has very high property values. Of course, the home that you're buying in this hypothetical scenario is lower than the average price of the homes in that community. So once you do those little fixes, you'll be able to boost up your equity and put yourself in a better financial position. If God forbid you need to tap into the equity or you need to sell your home, you're not going to be underwater with the mortgage. Number two, the most important one that you have to understand is variable costs, and that's going to be your insurance, your property tax. Those are expenses that every single year they can either go up or they go down, but to be quite honest with you, most of the time they're going to go up, so you need to prepare for those, especially when you buy a property. So a lot of people in the past couple of years who've been putting high offers over ask, waiving appraisals when they're buying their homes, now this year and the coming year, they're going to start seeing the assessment of their property value or property taxes go up considerably. So you bought a home for $500,000. Originally, the homeowner bought it at $100,000. They were paying property tax of $3,000. Now you're going to be paying property taxes of $10,000. And normally within the first year, just because of escrow and how the bank set it up, you're going to be paying pretty much the same amount of money in taxes as the previous homeowner, and that's what they're going to put in your escrow. But you want to make sure that when you're running your calculations, you're taking into account more or less how much that assessed value of that property is going to be at the new purchase price, and you want to make sure you have enough in escrow so you don't get a surprise next year that, hey, you're short and you need to come up with an extra $10,000 to make up the difference. So keep that in mind, very important. The property tax that the owner's paying right now is not going to be the same property tax that you're going to be paying. Property insurance, depending what state you're in, for example, Florida, it's going up 100, even 200%, and if you live in condominiums, forget about it, it's going up even higher. You want to keep in mind that insurance, if your state is a high-risk area like California with the wildfire, Florida with hurricanes and flooding, you want to make sure that you can take into account a little bit of a cushion that if your insurance goes up from this year to the next year, that you can at least cover a 50% increase within that. So keep that in mind, and you want to make sure that those numbers that you're in now, that you're locked in. Now, your mortgage, which is your principal and your interest, that's not going to change unless you have a variable rate, which I highly recommend that you don't do that. But if you have a fixed mortgage, that payment's not going to change. But those other expenses will, and you want to keep in mind when you're doing that. And then third and most important one is you need to do your due diligence. You need to make sure that just because the home is cheap and affordable doesn't necessarily mean that it's better value. Sometimes people like to go to other areas that the property values are not that high, but they want to buy a home there that's in an area that's really hasn't grown, really hasn't increased in property value too much, but they want to buy the home at a premium, which they think is a discount compared to everything else, and then they're going to drop 100, 200 grand to bring up that home, assuming that the property value is going to match and increase that. And most of the time when you do that in those type of communities, you're not going to get that money back. That's an over enhancement of that property, and those are sunken costs that you're never going to get back at the sale of the home because the community itself doesn't demand or command that type of increase or that type of sale price. So keep that in mind, and those three things, if you follow those three things, it's going to save you a lot of time, headache, and money. And most importantly, you want to make sure that you have a realtor that can help you and guide you through that process and making sure that they know what they're doing. And ask these questions. Be transparent, have your little notes, and ask, because the more information that you know and the more questions that you ask, the more informed you'll be, less of a chance that you'll make of messing up. So just keep that in mind. I hope this video gave you at least some insight and some value. of what you should be doing when you purchase your first property, how to avoid these first-time home buyer traps. And if you enjoyed this video and you found some value, what are you waiting for? Give me a follow.